Hello, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Douglas Johnson, and I am a certified yoga teacher at the advanced 500-hour level, an ordained minister, kirtan artist, amongst other things. And today I wanted to share with you a passage from A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is one of my favorite scriptures, and so I draw a lot of wisdom from that text. I study it constantly, and so every now and then I find a little gem that I want to share with you in hopes that it will impact you in a beneficial way. Before I do that, I do want to thank my patrons on Patreon. These are the people, the community that make these talks possible, or make it possible for me to provide these talks free of charge on YouTube. It's not that I would charge, I just simply wouldn't have the time and energy and resources to do this. So they give me a little bit of cushioning financially that allows me to block out time and resources to do this work. Otherwise, I would basically be teaching yoga full-time, and I wouldn't have time to do this. I'm already teaching yoga full-time, just FYI. So I would be working overtime teaching yoga, and I just wouldn't have time to do this. So anyway, let's get into today's talk. Okay, so I wanted to read to you directly from the text, and I'll have in the description or in the title the exact chapter. I think it's 21, 2, 2, 1 through 7. That's what I have written here. I'm not sure if that's very helpful. But Course in Miracles is well documented, and you should be able to find plenty of resources online. You can just even type in some of the words from, if you quote some of the words from what I share with you, you can find it online. It's free, just like the Bible or other scriptures, okay? So I was listening to the Course the other day, and this came across this, and I found it very, very powerful. The Course can be very long-winded, and it can be very complex and confusing in some regards, but there are these inflection points where I feel it gets very clear and it's very simple. And I really pay attention when I find those points, because I find that they are practices, they are things that I can do that are very simple in a sense. Okay, so I thought this was like that. So it says here, the only thing that you need to do for vision, happiness, release from pain, and the complete escape from sin, all to be given you, say only this, but mean it with no reservations. So it's saying you just need to say this one thing, but you need to say it without reservation, okay? Where you really, really mean it. And then it says, say only this, but mean it with no reservations, for here the power of salvation lies. Okay, so it's basically giving us something that we can say, and if we not only say it, but mean it, this is salvation. Okay, so again, very, very powerful claim that's being made here. And I chose this to share this because this is very powerful from a perspective of spirituality and also manifestation. And again, on my journey, I've seen a lot of overlap. There are some manifestation people, if you will, who are very kind of woo-woo, spacey, in my opinion, not very spiritual actually, and not very grounded. And so just like with spirituality, there's a smorgasbord of what's out there. So please don't associate, when I talk about manifestation, with maybe some very, very out there woo-woo manifestation coach who you might have come across, okay? For me, there are definitely some people who are in this space who are very grounded. People like Dr. Joe Dispenza, who helps people manifest healings, okay? He's a doctor. He's written many books. He is not really a woo-woo BS kind of person. And if you don't believe me, just go check out him and his work, and you'll find that he has a very grounded way of speaking, and he talks a lot about science and medicine and other things, okay? All right, so here is the quote. I am responsible for what I see. I choose the feelings I experience, and I decide upon the goal I would achieve. And everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for and receive as I have asked. Now, I love this passage because for most of us, it's going to seem ridiculous, nonsensical, because we all experience things in our life that we feel we'd rather not experience. And I can't get too deep into the metaphysical side of a course, but basically it says that we are godlike beings. We're essentially extensions of God's love and energy and power. And the reason we don't know this and experience this is because we've basically disavowed that power. And so we seem to live in a world where it's like just random stuff happens to us, right? Some of it is good, some of it is bad, but overall, this place kind of seems like a no-win game, right? You die in the end. It kind of sucks, doesn't it? No matter how much money you make or admiration you get or what skills you develop, the end of the story ends with he or she died. Okay. You know, we can say, well, some people died fulfilled or happy, or yes, I get it, you know, but it still is kind of bleak if we think about it. There was this beautiful being, and then from the perspective of the world and from what we can see with our senses, that being essentially ceases to exist. It's pretty dark. So the Course basically is saying that this is not our real reality, and we are choosing this reality. Now, I understand if you have a lot of resistance to that idea, okay? Because again, you might be suffering right now, and you might feel like you are suffering because of others, choices that others have made, things that others have done. I get it. It really feels really real. It really feels that way. And if you want to go on believing that, there honestly is nothing I can do to convince you otherwise. It really has to be a choice that you make, that you decide that you want your spiritual power back. And this is something I've been talking about for a very long time, way before I learned anything about manifestation. But it's a spiritual concept. We simply decide that we are powerful, and that even though others might try and victimize us or take our peace or take our joy, we simply decide that we don't allow that to happen. And what's interesting to me about my journey into manifestation is that's essentially how many manifestation coaches talk and encourage you to think. It does not matter that the world is showing you evidence that is contrary to your choice. You keep choosing the reality that you want to experience. And once you have convinced yourself through and through, that reality will begin to manifest, okay? So again, I like this passage because it speaks both to the manifestation community and to the spiritual community. And it's basically saying the same thing, You are powerful beyond your wildest dreams. And if you are not experiencing peace, joy, bliss, fulfillment, that is because you have made a choice and are believing things about yourself that ultimately are not true, okay? They ultimately are not true. And when I say ultimately, I mean from a spiritual perspective. Relatively speaking, in time and space, in the eyes of the world, yes, those things might be true. But again, I have to remind everybody all the time, this channel is about deep spirituality. And spirituality is not about the reality that we see with our senses. Does spirituality affect the reality we see with our senses? Absolutely, it does. It affects outcomes, it affects how we see and perceive the world, how we experience things, how we react to the world. But it is not per se about manipulating the world. And what's interesting about manifestation is the good manifestation coaches will tell you the same thing about manifestation. You're only trying to change or affect one thing, and that is you, because you ultimately are really the only reality. So that is the only thing you need to concern yourself with. Other people, the world, the government, all these other things are things that are really not your concern. So there's another part of this after. It says, deceive yourself no longer that you are helpless in the face of what is done to you. Acknowledge, but that you have been mistaken, and all effects of your mistakes will disappear. How wonderful. If we can acknowledge, hey, I made a mistake, I was confused, I was blaming things out there, but really it was just my own confusion that I thought that there was a problem, then it all goes away. There is a passage from one of my favorite Zen teachers that he shares that I really like, where he says, delusion or confusion about reality is a lot like pressing on your eye with your finger and then looking at the moon and seeing two moons, see a double image of the moon. And he says, you know, what a lot of us are doing in the world is we're asking, what do I do about this second moon? What can I do about that? I just want there to be one moon. Why are there two moons? He says, asking that question is really the wrong question to ask. The solution is to take the finger off your eye and the second moon will disappear. So this is a great analogy for what we are mentally and emotionally doing to ourselves. You could say the second moon is what we might call human psychological suffering. And this is really what spirituality helps us address. So if I am suffering, I'm looking out and I see other people doing things that are causing my suffering, then I'm seeing the second moon. And what that means from the perspective of spirituality and manifestation is, again, I am mentally creating the distortion with some kind of misunderstanding, misbelief, misperception. And if I insist on carrying on in that way, again, thinking I'm powerless, what can I do? It's not fair, I'm the victim, woe is me, nobody cares, whatever it is, whatever your sob story is, I'm traumatized, it's because of this that I can't do that, I have to heal this, I have to heal that, then that will be our reality. We will keep seeing a second moon. We will continue to suffer. And that's the interesting thing about the teachings of manifestation and deep spirituality is they basically say it's up to us to choose. Now, I understand why you might hear that and get very frustrated and say, well, I'm choosing, but nothing is changing. And I have to agree, it can be very subtle. And there are layers to our consciousness and to our beliefs and to our perception. And while in theory and in reality, we could just let go of all of our misperceptions at once. We could say the phrase that is this talk is based on, and if we really, really meant it, right? That's what the Course is offering us, is saying, say this, but really mean it. But then you can't the next minute say the opposite, right? This is where so many of us get caught. And this is a big part of what I hope you take from my teachings, which is it's the granular level on which you need to work. You need to start monitoring your thoughts. You need to start seeing the choices that you are making. Are you choosing to see yourself as an extension of God's love and power? Or are you seeing to see yourself as a little vulnerable animal, you know, a human being who you have to defend yourself against this whole world in order to survive? Okay, so you may not realize that that's a choice that you can make, but it is. And so the Course, that phrase, again, very simple, but it's basically saying if we say this and we really mean it, if we own it, I'm responsible for the world I see. I am responsible for my emotions. I'm getting exactly what I want. Then we take our power back and then we can change our experience. Now, I understand you're like, why would I ever choose pain? Why would I ever choose suffering? Why would I ever choose any of this stuff? That's a complex issue, but it basically has to do with, again, separating from our God power and the love of God, wanting to have this experience on some level. We chose this on some level. And at some point, that might have sounded like a really good idea and a lot of fun. And we probably enjoyed it. And maybe we didn't call it suffering in the past. It may have been a very different experience. But if you're listening to this talk, chances are that you've gotten to the point where it has become suffering, that choice that you made. You don't remember making it, I understand. It doesn't even feel like a choice. It feels like this has been done to you. I understand that, I get that. Logically, it feels like I didn't choose this. I didn't choose this disease. I didn't choose this body. I didn't choose these parents and family that are so abusive. I didn't choose, you know, whatever my circumstance is. What are you talking about? No way would I choose this. So it's not saying that your human conscious mind chose it. Obviously, that is not true. No one is saying that. What we are saying, interestingly, is you can use your conscious human mind to make a different choice, okay? And like a phrase that I really like, I first heard it from Seth. I don't know if it originated with him, but it's a great pointer. Your point of power is in the present. You can change everything from right here and right now. You can change everything about your circumstance from right here and right now. Here's the catch. This is the only place from which you can change everything about your circumstances. Now, you might be thinking, well, I'll choose now differently, and then I'll go back to living my life as it was. Well, when your thoughts, when things don't go your way and your thoughts go right back to, why me? It's not fair. I listened to that talk by Doug and I said the thing and now it's not true. Look at what's happening to me. Again, victim, victim, victim. That's not how God would think. That's not how God would approach this. So it's very tricky, I understand. We think we can do something and then just the future will just unfold. But the point of power is the present, and the present is eternal. You can't make a choice once and then make the opposite choice a second later and expect the first choice to continue to have an impact. What you may not realize is in your human form, with your human conditioning and your human mind, you have habitual thoughts, beliefs, choices. You're making choices without even realizing them. The last talk I gave on A Course in Miracles was all about choice. So if you'd like to know a little more about that, please check out that talk, okay? But you are making choices constantly. And what we have to do to turn the Titanic away from disaster, away from the iceberg, is to start making little choices over and over and over again. And the essence of what I'm sharing with you here is the choice to believe in your own power. Now that might sound conceited or like who am I kind of a thing, but actually if you understand that you were made by the creator of the universe and you were not made small, you were made perfect, and you were made to live a life of peace, love, joy, compassion, connection. So if you are not experiencing that, then that means there is some confusion. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, okay? It doesn't mean that you sinned and that you deserve it. It means that you are confused. Now this is true in yoga, as well as in the view of Course in Miracles, as well as in manifestation. You are not what you think you are. And it's good news. You're much more than you ever believed, okay? So this is a choice. Again, I'm not here to tell you what to believe. You can believe whatever you want to believe, but you can choose to believe that you're more powerful than you ever imagined. And that's what a lot of spirituality is trying to get us to see, whether that power comes from a higher power. Some scriptures or teachings are of that nature, that God is this all-powerful being, but God's power is, we are an extension of God's power, okay? Or, as some in the manifestation community and some non-dualists would say, is you are God. You are the only thing that you can verify is in existence. But you are not your ego. It's not you, John Doe. Okay, if that's what you're thinking, then you're very much mistaken. John Doe has no power, okay? But that power which created John Doe, which is an extension of that power, that is infinite. That knows no bounds, okay? So these are some pretty deep concepts. So if you're a little bit, if your head's swimming or spinning, you're confused, it's okay. A lot of times talks like this are just planting seeds, and the seeds will grow or sprout when the conditions are right. And this is often how spirituality works. So if something goes over your head, it's perfectly fine. You don't need to study it or sit there and try and understand. Just let it go over your head. Let it wash over you. And then put it aside. And then one day, you might hear another talk. Or you might enter into a situation and this talk comes back into your awareness. And there might be a light bulb moment, okay? All right, everyone. I hope this was helpful. As always, reach out if you have any questions or if there's something that I can do for you. If you would like to help out, become a part of the community that produces these talks, please check out the links to Patreon below. If you don't want to do that, you can help by liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing on YouTube. Until next time, everyone, namaste, and have a beautiful, beautiful day.